I won the National Board of Review, and this is all happening so fast. And I told Clint, I said, I've been in this business 50 years, but I finally feel like I hit the big time.
At first glance, people noticed the physical change, but few understood the real reason behind it. This wasn't a makeover, a trend, or a personal choice made for attention. It was the result of a life-altering diagnosis: type 2 diabetes. Behind the transformation was fear, struggle, discipline, and a fight to survive. Every change in her appearance reflected a deeper battle happening away from the spotlight. In this video, we uncover how type 2 diabetes reshaped her life, forced difficult adjustments, and became the turning point that changed everything. Join us in this video. No. At 77, Kathy Bates finally reveals the truth behind her shocking transformation. As Kathy Bates quietly questioned whether it was time to step away from acting, her body delivered a reckoning she could no longer ignore. A diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, an illness that had threaded itself through her family history, arrived like a cold awakening. For years, she had pushed forward without listening, brushing aside warning signs until fear finally cut through the noise. The memories came rushing back. Loved ones lost, others still struggling. And the realization that she was walking a familiar, dangerous path. That moment marked more than a medical turning point. It sparked an awakening. By learning to listen to her body, its hunger, its limits, its quiet signals to stop, she rediscovered something she thought she had lost: control. With each small, disciplined choice, the weight slowly fell away. Confidence followed. And beneath it all, a sense of self began to re-emerge, steady and reclaimed. But renewed strength did not mean an end to hardship. After undergoing a double mastectomy following her cancer diagnosis, Bates faced another unexpected challenge: lymphedema. It was a condition few spoke about, yet one that instantly reshaped her daily life. Swelling, discomfort, and physical limitations became constant companions, another invisible battle layered atop the ones she had already fought. Still, Bates refused to let the condition define her in silence. As she continued managing diabetes and weight loss, she felt a growing responsibility to speak for those who suffered quietly, unseen and often misunderstood. Her pain, once private, began to transform into purpose. Bates does not describe lymphedema as a mere afterthought in her survival story. To her, it is a profound reminder of how fragile and resilient the human body can be. The lymphatic system, designed to protect, can become a source of lasting hardship when disrupted by cancer treatment. The swelling can be severe, disfiguring, and life-altering, yet it remains widely overlooked. Meeting others living with the condition opened her eyes to just how many endure it in isolation. That realization reshaped her mission. No longer focused solely on her own recovery, Bates began advocating for education, research funding, and compassionate care. Her hope is urgent, but deeply human: to pull lymphedema out of the shadows, help people recognize the signs early, and ensure that no one is left to face its most devastating stages alone. In sharing her journey, Kathy Bates offers more than a story of survival. She offers a reminder that even in the aftermath of illness, purpose can be reborn, and the most private struggles can become a lifeline for others. With every setback, Kathy Bates felt her resolve deepen rather than weaken. Weight loss was no longer about appearance or public perception. It became an act of survival, a way to reclaim authority over her own life after years of feeling ruled by circumstance. There were stretches when the scale refused to move, when exhaustion and doubt whispered that the effort might not be worth it. Those were the moments that demanded more than discipline. They required belief. Slowly, persistence began to reshape her world. The changes brought an unexpected gift: physical freedom she hadn't experienced in years. Her body moved with less resistance. Everyday tasks no longer felt punishing, and life itself seemed to open up again. When the opportunity to return to Matlock presented itself, she realized something profound. Her body was no longer an obstacle. She could meet the long hours and demands of the work with steadiness, resilience, and confidence earned the hard way. Yet beneath the visible transformation lived a quieter, more complicated struggle. Bates began to reflect on her lifelong relationship with food, the emotional weight it carried, the comfort it once offered, and the habits it quietly shaped. Acknowledging those truths was not easy, but it became essential to her growth. By confronting the emotions behind her patterns, she found clarity instead of shame. That self-awareness allowed her to move toward balance, replacing punishment with understanding and creating a healthier relationship with both her body and herself. As her confidence slowly took root, Bates came to understand something quietly powerful. Change was not an abstract hope reserved for others. It was real, possible, and within reach. That belief became a steady force during moments when doubt once lived. She spoke openly about how transformative it feels to finally trust yourself, to recognize that resistance to change often grows from a loss of faith in one's own strength. Seeing others make brave, life-altering choices moved her deeply, serving as a reminder of how capable the human spirit truly is. Real transformation, she reflected, is not dramatic or instant. It unfolds in small, unseen victories, shaped by patience and courage. And when it finally arrives, it feels almost miraculous. Not because it was easy, but because it was earned through the simple, powerful decision to believe in yourself again. Today, Kathy Bates approaches her life with intention and care, fully aware that maintaining her health is an ongoing commitment. Staying active is no longer a chore but a lifeline, one she credits as essential to sustaining the changes she fought so hard to achieve. Movement keeps her grounded, present, and connected to the strength she rebuilt piece by piece. Looking back, she does so with quiet gratitude, not just for the opportunities still unfolding before her, but for the second chance she earned through discipline, honesty, and perseverance. Her career continues to thrive, but now it stands alongside personal growth rather than at its expense. That balance, hard-won and deeply cherished, feels like a gift. For Bates, this journey has been nothing short of revelatory. It reshaped how she sees herself, her body, and her future. Her story carries a powerful reminder. Even the most painful transformations can open the door to renewed purpose and passion. Through resilience and patience, she found her way back to control, emerging stronger, wiser, and more compassionate toward herself. Her commitment now reaches beyond her own life. By sharing her struggles and triumphs, she becomes a quiet beacon for others facing similar battles. Kathy Bates proves that change does not have an expiration date, that growth can arrive slowly, and that when it does, it feels almost miraculous. Even in the hardest seasons, she reminds us, it is possible to reclaim ourselves and rise. Kathy Bates was born on a warm June day in 1948 in Memphis, Tennessee, the youngest child in a family shaped by discipline, intellect, and quiet tradition. Her father, a mechanical engineer, and her mother, devoted to home and family, gave her a grounding that traced back through generations: lawyers, writers, even a distant ancestor who once tended to a U.S. president. From an early age, she moved with purpose, finishing high school ahead of schedule before immersing herself in theater at Southern Methodist University. Those years carried the innocence of beginnings and the ache of ambition. In 1970, she left the familiarity of the South for New York City, carrying little more than determination and a dream. Training at the William Esper Studio, she sharpened her craft in anonymity, unaware that these quiet, uncertain years were laying the foundation for a life defined by resilience, patience, and eventual triumph. When Kathy Bates arrived in New York City, success felt distant and unforgiving. She survived on odd jobs, worked behind counters, and took whatever small stage roles she could find, clinging to the belief that persistence mattered more than approval. Her first film appearance came quietly in the early 1970s, followed by years of rejection that cut deeply. Casting agents dismissed her looks, telling her she didn't fit the mold. She later reflected that she was never meant to be the ingenue. She was a character actor, often asked to play someone older, stranger, or on the margins. It was painful work, not just for the lack of roles, but for what it revealed about how the world judged her. The theater became her refuge. Through the 1970s and early 80s, she built a formidable reputation on stage, earning acclaim for performances that demanded emotional honesty and fearlessness. Critics began to take notice, and awards followed, confirming what persistence had already taught her. She belonged. Gradually, film and television caught up. Small screen roles and supporting film performances laid the groundwork for what would become a seismic breakthrough. That moment arrived in 1990, when Bates stunned audiences with a performance so raw and terrifying it permanently altered her career. Overnight, she was no longer overlooked. She was undeniable. Awards, acclaim, and complex roles followed, from emotionally grounded dramas to sharp-edged comedies. She proved she could be formidable, tender, hilarious, and deeply human, often stealing scenes without asking for attention. As the years passed, Bates refused to be confined to a single phase. She moved fluidly between film, television, and even directing, earning respect not just for her talent, but for her endurance. In the 2000s and beyond, she continued to choose roles that reflected real women, flawed, aging, powerful, and unapologetic. Her later work brought renewed acclaim, particularly on television, where she reinvented herself yet again, earning major awards and a new generation of admirers. By the time she stepped into the role of Matlock in her 70s, it felt less like a comeback and more like a full-circle moment. Once doubted, once dismissed, she now stood as a living contradiction to every limitation placed on her. Her career, marked by rejection, reinvention, and remarkable staying power, reads like a quiet defiance of time itself, a reminder that resilience, not perfection, is what ultimately endures. Long before fame found her, Kathy Bates was already wrestling with her inner world. As a teenager, she poured her emotions into what she once called sad songs, using music as an outlet during periods marked by quiet depression. That sensitivity carried into adulthood, shaping both her art and her personal life. After years of companionship, she married actor Tony Campisi in the early 1990s. Their relationship spanned nearly 2 decades before marriage, yet the union itself was brief, ending in divorce after 6 years, another chapter that closed with reflection rather than resentment. Health, however, would become the most defining test of her resilience. In the early 2000s, Bates was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, a moment that shook her sense of permanence. Years later, she spoke with gratitude about remission, believing she had survived her greatest battle, until another arrived. In 2012, she revealed she had been diagnosed with breast cancer and chose to undergo a double mastectomy. Survival came at a cost. The surgery left her with lymphedema in both arms, a chronic condition few openly discussed at the time. Rather than retreat, Bates turned pain into purpose. She stepped into advocacy, lending her voice to organizations focused on lymphatic diseases and becoming a public face for education, research, and compassion. She spoke at national events, walked alongside survivors, and even stood before lawmakers, urging greater funding and recognition so others wouldn't suffer in silence. Her efforts earned national recognition, but more importantly, they brought visibility to an illness long overlooked. In the years that followed, Bates quietly transformed again. Through discipline and self-awareness, she lost nearly 100 pounds, a change that restored her energy and physical freedom. That renewal allowed her to step confidently into demanding work once more, including a leading role in Matlock. Looking back, her life reads not as a series of victories, but as a testament to endurance, a reminder that survival, growth, and purpose often emerge from the deepest struggles. In the aftermath of the Orlando nightclub tragedy, Kathy Bates lent her voice to remembrance, joining a moving tribute that honored the lives lost and carried their stories forward with quiet reverence. That same compassion has long shaped her advocacy work. Drawing from her own experience with lymphedema, Bates has spoken openly about an illness too often misunderstood or ignored. Over the years, she has stood before scientists, physicians, and the public alike, sharing her journey and urging greater awareness, research, and empathy. From major medical conferences to national forums, her words bridged personal pain and collective responsibility. In more recent years, she has continued these conversations through intimate interviews and podcasts, reflecting on survival, advocacy, and the long road after cancer. Each appearance underscores her commitment to turning suffering into service, ensuring that those living in silence are finally seen, heard, and remembered.